Private messages linked to Queen Camilla have leaked, revealing candid thoughts never meant to be seen outside palace walls. Senior aides are reeling, insiders are blaming each other, and the monarchy is facing unexpected exposure. What Camilla thought would stay secret is now reshaping trust at the highest level. Camilla thought this would stay secret, the bombshell that leaked. In early 2026, a leak stunned Buckingham Palace. Private communications linked to Queen Camilla surfaced, unguarded, unfiltered, and never meant to be seen. These weren't polished memos. They were personal reflections, candid thoughts on family dynamics, power, and visibility. One aide said, "The heir left the room." Within minutes, phones were silenced, corridors emptied, and legal advisors summoned. Camilla had trusted in palace protocol, in loyalty, in privacy. But the messages revealed a pattern, not a slip, a perspective that challenged the public illusion of royal unity. By midnight, it was clear. Control had been lost. The content wasn't scandalous, it was honest. And that made it far more dangerous. "She never imagined this would see daylight," said one aide. Now the palace faced the one crisis it couldn't rehearse. A monarchy exposed not by attack, but by its own voice. What was in the leak? Explosive details about family dynamics. The leak didn't reveal betrayal. It revealed truth, and that was worse. Camilla's private comments included subtle critiques of senior royals, frustration over visibility shifts, and candid thoughts on who leads and who resists change. One line reportedly contradicted palace messaging about unity. Another expressed concern about family members reshaping expectations without permission. Though names weren't named, the tone was unmistakable and dangerous. Staff weren't shaken by scandal. They were shaken by sincerity, the kind that breaks through royal illusion. "This wasn't gossip," said one aide. "It was perspective, and perspective, when exposed, is power." The messages exposed emotional fault lines long buried beneath formality: rivalry, insecurity, doubt. It wasn't the monarchy falling apart. It was the monarchy appearing human, and that made it vulnerable. Senior aides immediately moved to contain the damage, knowing that if truth outpaced control, Camilla's role and the institution could be redefined forever. Immediate palace reaction. Panic behind closed doors. By dawn, the palace entered crisis mode. Meetings moved to windowless rooms, phones confiscated, notes discouraged. One aide whispered, "It felt like the walls were listening." The communications team scrambled. Total silence? Controlled response? Every move was risky. "The more we say, the more we confirm," said one strategist. Devices were pulled, staff questioned, fear shifted to the media, where nuance vanishes and every phrase becomes headlines. "The press won't read intent," warned one official. "They'll read division." Contingency plans were drawn, schedules reviewed, lawyers consulted. No one slept. What shocked the staff wasn't betrayal. It was that something so protected had escaped. It meant the system had failed. An exhausted aide muttered, "This isn't about reputation anymore. It's about survival." Because once a private voice becomes public, the monarchy's silence, its most powerful tool, no longer belongs to it. And now the institution was racing a narrative it didn't author. Why Camilla thought it would stay secret. Those close to Queen Camilla insist her trust wasn't arrogance, it was habit. For decades, she operated inside a palace system built on loyalty and silence. She believed her inner circle would never breach that. She trusted the system, said one aide, because it had never failed her. Her confidence lay in tradition, not technology, in protocols built for a world before digital risk. Messages were shared with longtime aides, guarded by unspoken rules. What she underestimated was speed. The speed of screenshots, the speed of circulation, the speed of exposure. She didn't think anyone would betray her. Not like this. The moment she realized what had happened, it was already too late. There was no plan for this, no script, no precedent. And as legal teams scrambled, Camilla faced the hardest truth of all. Private trust no longer guarantees royal protection. The world was watching, and the fallout had begun. The fallout begins. First public reactions. Within hours, headlines began to form. Media outlets hinted at leaked insights into Camilla's private thoughts. Royal commentators called it historic, not because of scandal, but because of what it revealed. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended. Some defended Camilla's right to privacy. Others questioned why such honest critiques existed at all. Public reaction was divided, but intense. Inside the palace, aides watched the narrative slip away. The story was now being shaped outside the gates. "This is what we feared," one staffer whispered. Not the leak, but the loss of control. Suddenly, the monarchy was not managing a message. It was chasing it. And one grim phrase reportedly echoed through palace corridors: "The monarchy is no longer in control of its own silence." Because the truth, once whispered, had crossed the line into history, and no royal script could pull it back. Internal blame game. Allies turn on each other. After the leak, palace walls turned inward. What began as quiet audits across Clarence House, Kensington, and Buckingham Palace spiraled into suspicion and division. Formerly loyal aides began pointing fingers. Press officers accused secretaries. Senior advisors clashed with communications teams. "We went from damage control to blame in under 48 hours, said one insider. Some suspect the leak was deliberate, a move from within to expose the quiet power struggles shaping royal roles. Others blame outdated security and digital sloppiness. Camilla, described as sharp and silent, asked the question haunting every office: was it carelessness or betrayal? 2 aides were quietly reassigned. No dismissals. But the message was clear. No one is beyond suspicion. And beneath it all sat a chilling truth. If one private message could escape, what else might already be out there? The crisis wasn't just technical, it was personal and dangerously unfinished. Impact on Camilla's image, private words, public consequences. Camilla, once seen as King Charles's stabilizing force, now stands exposed. Her leaked reflections, meant to be private, are being dissected publicly and with intensity. One line described the monarchy's shift toward youth and media-driven influence, widely read as discomfort with Kate's rise. Another lamented public loyalty moving forward too fast. Hashtags like #CamillaLeak and #RoyalDivide trended across TikTok and X. Some defended her honesty, while others called it resentment veiled as reflection. Royal historian Clive Walton called it strategy revealed too soon. But others said the tone betrayed a deeper insecurity, one that clashes with the public's vision of monarchy. Even defenders admitted, it's not what she said, it's how fast it changed everything. Camilla's image, carefully restored over years, now sits on shaky ground, reshaped not by scandal, but by sincerity. And while she remains silent, other royals move swiftly to reclaim unity before perception becomes permanent. How other royals responded: damage control. The leak hit hard, but the palace moved fast. Within 6 hours, senior aides from Charles, William, and Kate's teams met in emergency session. The mood? Not panicked, just shaken. A joint family statement was issued the next morning. The royal family remains committed to collective service and shared responsibility. No mention of Camilla, but the message was clear. Then came optics. Kate and William visited a children's hospital. No mention of headlines, just warmth, poise, and public composure. Charles gave a speech in Scotland, adding a last-minute line: "Resilience is not born in calm." A subtle nod to the storm. 2 days later, Camilla reappeared, smiling at a literacy event. No comments, just controlled grace. Behind closed doors, her office was quietly reviewed, devices audited, access lists updated. A former aide summed it up: "They're covering the crack with velvet, but it's still a crack." And the pressure to hold the illusion had never been greater. What this means for palace security protocols. The monarchy's digital vulnerability was laid bare. In response, Palace IT launched Operation Contain, a top-down overhaul of royal communication systems. Measures include mandatory multi-step authentication, ban on personal cloud accounts, real-time file transfer monitoring, restricted device access in royal offices. A new digital privacy task force was also formed under the Lord Chamberlain, rewriting the monarchy's outdated tech strategy, the first since 2006. One senior tech officer admitted, "We were prepared for paparazzi, not internal leaks." Some fear overcorrection, more secrecy, less transparency, and silence mistaken for security. But leadership is clear. This cannot happen again. Still, firewalls and encryption can't fix trust. The bigger threat is no longer outside the gates, but inside the system, where private words can travel faster than royal response. And in this new age, protection isn't tradition, it's adaptation. The bigger picture: why Palace didn't expect the fallout. For centuries, the monarchy survived on trust, tradition, and silence. That formula once protected it, but in 2026, it failed. Camilla's leaked reflections weren't scandalous, they were honest. And that's why they struck so deeply. The real crisis wasn't what was said. It was the realization that private thoughts are no longer safe, and silence no longer protects power. A senior aide confessed, "We were looking outward. We thought the threat was the press. We didn't expect the breach to come from within." Screenshots move faster than protocol. Perception outruns fact. And once leaked, even a single sentence can redefine the crown. This moment marks a turning point, not for Camilla alone, but for how the palace functions. It must now choose between evolving with transparency or retreating further into guarded tradition. Because in today's monarchy, silence isn't strength. It's a vacuum, one that others will always rush to fill. This leak didn't just expose private words, it exposed the palace's deepest vulnerability, its belief that silence is safety. In a digital world, secrecy is fragile and trust is fleeting. Now, the crown must confront a harder truth. The greatest risk isn't scandal. It's what happens when loyalty leaks,